15. No, I'm 15. No, I'm 15. No, I'm 15.
Hey, everybody out there, No on 15 listeners. This is another quick hitter on the Loki series that I've been doing. And this is a episode 5 review. Wow. Here we go again. More crazy stuff. So, on this episode, if you guys remember, the last thing we saw was Loki got pruned, and then he shows up on what appears to be another planet, another place. We find out that this place is called the Void, and the other Lokis who have been sent there before, the Void is essentially the end of time. This is what happens to everyone that's been pruned, and we find out later on that that's, what the Void is from Ravonna. So if you guys remember, Ravonna and Sylvie at the end of the last episode were kind of fighting each other, and Sylvie wanted to know what was really going on. And so it looks like they're going to team up and try to get more information at the TVA. But when that happens, Ravonna double crosses Sylvie after the seemingly team up, which obviously we find out is fake. And, she uses Mrs. Minutes to kind of lie about some temporal spacecraft prototype, to try to get her thinking, this is how we can get to Loki, who's in the Void. But that's a lie. So, it's just basically a holdup, a diversion until the Minutemen can get there. And when they do, Sylvie runs and jumps and hides behind, it's that place where they do like their fake trials and stuff. And she's hiding behind there, and she gets surrounded by Ravonna, and the Minutemen show up. And they're closing in, and there's like a little bit of exchange, about come on, come out and we'll talk and this and that. And, we just see Sylvie pop up, and she prunes herself so she can go find Loki, obviously, in the Void. And when that happens, we shoot to, the Lokis, which we saw at the end of the last episode. We have a boastful Loki, who's played by Diobia Operai. I hope I got that name right. And we have a classic Loki, who's played by Richard E. Grant. And we got a kid Loki. And they're all just, kind of trying to school Loki, who just got there, about, what that place is. And so they get there. They got this hideout. It's like this underground lair. And, they start to kind of shoot the shit, talking around a little round table. And, they're talking about how, they got caught by the TVA, or what they did to end up there, what caused their nexus event, basically. And, something else I didn't mention was, like, for some reason that the kid Loki is the leader of all the Lokis on there. So they didn't really delve into that on the episode of why he was, but he was. And, they're all kind of following him. There's also a gator Loki, which I didn't mention, which is funny. It looks awesome. And yeah, they're all talking about, round table, and, how, finally Richard E. Grant, who's kind of dressed up as a classic Loki, and that's kind of, what you get the gist of he is, says, he got caught because he realized after a while that all he was doing was bad stuff, and he just wanted to be alone. So he found a planet, a desolate planet, lived there by himself for so long. And then eventually he said he got lonely. He missed his father. He missed his brother. He missed everyone. So when he went to leave the planet, that's when the TVA caught him, because, he was alone for so long. So at that time, our Loki, the one we're following in the show, gets, he tries to convince them that they need to escape, right? And he gives them the spiel, and everyone just starts dying and laughing, like, whatever, dude. Like, you think we're going to escape There's this entity on the planet called the Alioth. And, you see it, like, basically destroying everything in its path. And that's what its job is, to destroy any events that were splintered from the sacred timeline that show up in the Void. And, after that, you see that conversation they had. We shoot back to Sylvie, who lands on the Void, lands in the Void. And Sylvie you see her running from the Alioth, but when she does that, you see her kind of touch it. She kind of gets a memory while she's running from the Alioth. And while she's running, out of nowhere, you see a car beeping, heading towards her. And sure enough, it pulls up, opens the door, and there's Mobius in there. Thank you for bringing Mobius back, because that dude was awesome. And he picks her up. And one little detail I forgot to mention, that Sylvie ended up taking Ravonna's temporal pad away. I think you actually do see that in this episode. She does have the temporal pad with her once she arrives in the Void. So that's something to keep in mind. that will come up later on in this episode. But man, it's an awesome episode. There's so much good exchanges, so much laughter from the different actors in the characterization of Loki in different versions of himself that Richard E. Grant does as a classic Loki, as a boastful Loki who kind of, double crosses the other Lokis, which is what they do. And also the kid Loki, how you can kind of see he's a little serious, but they follow him for some reason. But cut back, and Mobius picks up Sylvie, and they drive away, and they try to figure out what they're gonna do next. And we shoot back to the Loki lair, and the Lokis, after they had a discussion, you find out that Loki's like, forget it, I'm gonna go and try to escape this place by myself and take on the Alioth, because it has to be that has to be some way out of here, because that's the only living thing, so I'm gonna go kill it. And he's heading up out of the lair, up the ladder, and we see another Loki with some henchmen show up. They go down into the lair. You figure out that there's something else going on here. Like there was a double cross. Again, the boastful Loki, played by Dioba Operai, double crossed the kid Loki who was in charge for according to him, to exchange for supplies and shelter with that evil Loki that just showed up. And that one is played by Tom Hiddleston as well, which is funny. And what is even funnier is you think, he's going to come in and take everything over, but he ends up getting double crossed by the henchmen as well. So there's like a double cross. They double cross, the boastful Loki, and then, the Loki that just showed up gets double crossed by his henchmen, which is kind of like what always happens to Loki. Someone always ends up taking advantage of him. And real funny part that happens there is the alligator Loki ends up jumping up and biting off the hand of the Loki that just showed up with the henchmen, and all hell breaks loose. It's really funny when it happens too. And after that happens, classic Loki, who you kind of get the idea is he's really powerful, because the conversation that they have in the episode about how he created, one of his proudest moments was creating an illusion that fooled Thanos himself. So. And he can also open up portals. And what he does is opens up a portal, and him and Kid Loki and the Gator Loki all escape through the portal. And then classic Loki tells them after they escape, it's always the same thing. Failure always happens, because we're always looking for our glorious moments. It's always in our heads. Our Loki's like, well, that's exactly why I need to escape here and get back, to Sylvie to destroy the TVA, because I know I want to change and be better. And the Kid Loki says, well, that's good enough reason for me to help you. It is a moment that you realize, is this for real or not? Because I know in the past we've seen Loki's just mischievous and he's always lying. But again, I think this show is trying to humanize Loki and make him out to be the good guy. So you get that feeling. The kid Loki says, that's good enough for him. And the classic Loki's like, fine, let's help him. We're going to help you. And, you see them walking away. And then we shoot back to Sylvie, who's with Mobius in the car. And they're talking about all the bad stuff that went on, that they regret. And Sylvie right away thinks that going into Alioth is the answer right away. Like, she thinks that, and she wants to head towards it. So she tells Mobius to turn around and head towards it. At the same time, she reveals that she only pruned herself so that she could find our Loki, the one that we've been following in the show, which is also an interesting reveal, because that definitely has some kind of feelings for Loki. So pretty dope so far again. And then we see Mobius and Sylvie. They find the Loki crew who's on the top of a hill, and Mobius makes a comment, man, you could throw a rock out here and hit a Loki, which is it's hilarious because there's nothing but Lokis out there. And Sylvie says her plan is to enchant the Alioth and see who's really behind it all at the end of time. And so they're coming up with a plan. And we shoot back to the TVA, and we see Ravonna go into a room and tells all the Minutemen to leave, and she has B-15 in a cell and asks, why, what's driving Sylvie? What does she know? And B-15 figures out that when she asks that Ravonna really wants to know who's behind the TVA as well. And she tells her something like, you just want to know who's behind it. Sylvie needs to know who's behind it, which is kind of a big deal too, because then Ravonna kind of gets a feeling, okay, I guess I got to take this more serious. And then she leaves the room, contacts Miss Minutes, and says, she needs all the files of the founding of the TVA back to when it started, because she wants to warn whoever is running it that they're in danger. That's the last part we see of the TVA. And then we go back to, Sylvie and Loki, We're getting close. I think it's kind of because of their feeling of failure together and not being successful that, Sylvie in particular feels like she can't trust anyone. And I think she can relate to, Loki always failing as well, which kind of brings them closer. And they discuss that, after everything figured out together, if she's cool with that, she says maybe. And it's genuinely a nice moment, I think, in the show. So then, we see Loki, Sylvie, the classic Loki, and Kid Loki. They're all talking and looking at Goliath, and, Sylvie's ready to go and try to enchant it and hands Loki the temporal pad. He then, hands it to Mobius and said he's staying. And then, with Sylvie, and Mobius offers it to, he offers the other Lokis a way out, like for free ticket. And they're like, no, we're staying. This is where we are. This is our home now. And then Kid Loki gives our Loki, like a nice sword that he can use to defend himself. And, Mobius then he heads back to the TVA and he says he's going to try to burn it down to the ground. And he wants to thank Loki for the spark. But before he leaves, our Loki and Mobius, I think, share an actual, genuine, heartfelt moment where it seems like Loki is changed. And he hugs him and says, thank you, my friend. He says that to Mobius, which is a dope moment, I think. Probably another one of the dopest moments in the show that you see. Like, he genuinely feels something for this dude. And he helped him see, maybe the errors of his ways. Because, again, I think they're trying to humanize Loki in the show. So Mobius takes off, goes back to the TVA. We don't see anything after that of Mobius. And then we see Sylvie and Loki head towards the Goliath and ready to, execute their plan of enchanting it. And they need a diversion. And Loki tries to use the sword, like it lights it up with flames and tries to wave it and get the attention of the Goliath, like to come his way. But it doesn't work. And Sylvie's about to get swallowed whole by the Goliath. And then, like, out of nowhere, classic Loki just pops out, creates this giant, like, fake Asgard, which is an awesome scene because you see him use his powers and just, like, lift the city up from nothing and create it. And it looks dope, man. It's a dope scene. When that happens, that's the perfect diversion because then, Sylvie grabs Loki and says, we have to do it together. And he's like, I don't know how. And she's like, you can do it. So they hold hands and they, both grab a cloud, like try to grab it and enchant it, which is the Goliath, which has like this aura of like a cloud around it. And yeah, they end up enchanting it, man. And everything goes green and out of nowhere, the cloud starts to like dissipate. And you can see a castle in the distance, which looks, I don't know. It looks similar to me to like the castle from Avengers Age of Ultron. I don't know if it is or not, but you can kind of see it and it looks like it's a planet and there's something off in the distance and you can kind of see a ship taking off too. So that's it, man. It ends in a cliffhanger and I think that's going to be the series finale. And, obviously, hopefully we figure out who it is in that castle, man. I hope, honestly, man, I hope it's not someone that we've already seen before because I think that gets kind of like a played out, trope, and I don't want that to happen. I want it to be somebody new that we've never seen before. That's my hopes for the series finale coming up. But this was a quick hitter, everybody, on episode 5 of Loki. Quick review. I think it was an awesome episode. We learned more about what happens when people get pruned. We learned more about the feelings that Loki and Sylvie have for each other, and we learned more about what the real boss is, the real villain is behind everything, who's been doing all this to the TVA. I think we're one step closer and we're going to find out next week. But again, this is your boy 7C saying peace out and God bless, and thanks for tuning in.